Oh, gee whiz. Whew. G'day and welcome. And it's not together really. I just put the bottom case on just to keep everything clean. Whoa. This is more about putting the gearbox back together, some of the other bits and pieces as well. I have gaskets and pistons and seals on the way. I don't have any other bits, so got to order those. And then we can steam ahead and put it together properly. Having said that, the gearbox and all that sort of stuff can stay in one piece. So we go into details of that sort of thing. The first 5 minutes of this one is my compressor died, so I've had to repair it and drag the camera along. Why wouldn't you? The other thing is, there's a guy, I've got to be honest about this, because this guy's video smoked mine, and the Woody shop, I want you to take a look at that, or you can if you want. Just on the 350 stuff, I haven't seen his other content, but really, really good instructional stuff on how to put it back together. And of course, I'd forgotten a lot of things, and I had a look at some of his stuff. Didn't find it till I was sort of halfway through, but it's really, really good stuff to watch. And he's got something like 600 subscribers. I'm thinking, why have you got more than that? American chap, so really, really good stuff. Really worth having a good look at. So that's about it from me. Just got to get parts and more parts and a few more parts too. I think the bottom end is going to end up costing quite a lot. There's a tensioner that I was directed to today in a comment from Dave Silver, I think it is, in England. There's an American outlet and an English one. I think the English one's going to be better for postage because USPS seems to charge an awful lot. And so I've got to get one of those, 85 pounds, and bearings and all sorts of stuff. So yeah, it's not going to be cheap putting this together. I reckon I'm not going to get much change of about $1,000 by the time I've finished it, but probably more by the time I bore it and find exhauster, inlet valve and stuff like that. I don't know what it's going to cost, but we can't leave it the way it is now. So anyway, this one we put the gearbox back together, muck around with the compressor, and have a look also at the primary drive shaft, because that was pretty confusing for me, so I had to sort of really sit there and nut it out. So I hope you enjoy. Well, I'm having a bit of trouble with this little monster. I had a little baby direct drive compressor that I used for years. I think I got 12 years or something out of it, and it eventually died. The valves in the head had given up. This was one I picked up cheap. It was, I think, originally $480 or $490 or something, and I picked it up on special for $349 from Repco. 200 litres of air per minute, which is why I bought it. Belt driven, and also you need that as a minimum for a low pressure gun. So when you turn the machine on or off, it would leak. It's holding a little bit of pressure at the moment. I haven't filled it up yet, but I got it November 2015. Haven't looked at it. Might give it an oil change. You just clean the air filter out and just mess around with it. I need a compressor, particularly at the moment, because I want to clean the 350's cases out. It's just been hydroblasted, and I want to make sure we're not going to get any grief putting it together with glass shot still in it. Don't think I've ever done this before. Oil change on a compressor. What's that? Oh, crap. This isn't going too well. Alright, if I had a brain in my head, I would have just wrapped a bit of tape around a piece of vacuum hose and drained it that way. That was pretty stupid. So I'm just going to give it a top up with this nice fresh engine oil, and that means I've therefore spoiled my little compressor. And we're just keeping an eye on that dot down there. I don't know if you can see that. And the good thing about this, we don't have to change an oil filter or anything, and we don't have to run it to make sure the level's right. We're just sticking it in the crankcase. And then I can call that done. The air filter on this thing's actually quite nifty. It's like a little Holden V8 one, and it's got it's a proper element. It's not just a block of foam. So I need compressed air to blow that out, but the compressed air's in here. So I'll clean that. That would be a bit of Sigma blue with some white from the XC on there, I would think. Anyway, it's nifty, isn't it? Looks like a little toy car one from back in the 1970s. Right, so what I've got here, I've got a check valve just in there. And what that does is it keeps air in the tank, stops it staying in this charge pipe here, which is what the compressor sort of fills the tank up via. And of course, in evacuating that, it means it's going to be easier for the motor to start the compressor again if that valve's shifty or shonky, air is going to keep going through here, through that small copper line underneath, and drain out through this over here, the pressure switch. So I'm tipping there's something wrong with that. At least I hope it is, because this has a cap on the other side, so it's serviceable. So I'm just going to clean out the 350 cases first of any glass shot while I've got air in here, in case it all goes belly up and I can't fix it today. And we'll take it from there. Mike paid a visit. Have I got you? There you are.
There you go.
No, the compressor's played. Yes. That air leaking out of there is because that valve is not doing its job. Jammed in pretty solid, so I've just taken the cap off the back and you can see it's all rusty. So I'm tipping there's debris all through it. She doesn't look brilliant. It worries me that much water's up there because I do drain this. Right, the problem is rust had formed in here and broken off or rusted through the bottom of the spring. It's a cheap valve. I think we're going to have to buy a new one. It's a stopgap job, so we'll just see how it goes. Alright, that's doing what it's supposed to do. It's only quite a weak spring. Hopefully it works. We'll put it back together and see what happens. Alright, give that a go. Oh, it's just there. So far so good. Cool. All good. Hang on. Yeah, we work. Right, okay. Where's that leak? I can hear air. Oh, it's leaking from there. Success. So I think what we're going to need to do is get a new spring for that valve. It's a band-aid what I've done. Let's make sure there's no water in the tank. Rightio, we're donning our gloves, getting ready for some 350F action. Now, this engine had been really badly meddled with in the top end, and the bottom end had as well. And of course, what I'm talking about is the tensioner, the chain tensioner, timing chain tensioner. If you look here, I've had it re-tapped and a plug put in, and it's off center. And the reason it's off center is because there was a broken stud in there essentially, which was then somebody had attempted to drill it out, and they drilled it out off center. So of course, to get that back into the middle, we had to get rid of everything in there and re-tap and put a plug in. Now traditionally these are quite a peculiar sort of setup in that we have this bridge that fits in here, has a plunger that runs against it, which pushes that, ergo deflects the chain tensioner running off this side. Don't know why they didn't put the 750 type in, which is just a simple thing coming in from the back of the cylinder barrels. So I'm going to dummy fit this stuff. I'm going to have to put the crank back in for now, until I get parts. I haven't got parts yet. But the thing that's the most sort of curious about it, we've got this sort of plunger, which looks a bit dirty. I might give that a bit of a spruce up. And that's a bit better. And on here's a flat. Now this thread traditionally is an 8mm that steps down to a 6mm, and it has a lock nut on the outside of it. The 6mm thread section runs on this bit here, so you get that much movement. So we can't just run a stouter 8mm stud down there to run against there, because it won't give you the amount of adjustment that we need, which is that. Now this just sits in there. I'm just going to pop a bit of oil on it first, just to make it a little bit more slippery, or a little less inclined to bind. And maybe I might just fly a bit down in there. Looking at where our flat is, we're going to make sure it's nice and free. And they of course have a spring that runs against them. to hold them out, or they have two springs. This is the 6mm guy we're putting in. I've just tapped it higher. Might not be suitable in terms of the strength of it, because it did tap exceedingly easily. So it might not be strong enough, but at the end of the day, we're doing a mock-up fit. So it's a double spring. That's got quite a lot of tension against it. So I'm just going to start this thread off. And if this comes out, it is going to fly somewhere into the middle of next week. So we want to catch that flat, which is there. So that is essentially the amount of play we've got, for want of a better term. So I'll just nip that up slightly. And of course we can nip the lock nut up. And I've used a shouldered nut, which is serrated at the bottom to go up against the casing. So that'll hold there. Then of course we've got this guy, but I'll put the crank in first, and that runs on there. So you can see how it works. It's quite a peculiar setup. So what I'll do, I haven't got new bearings for it yet, but we're going to get them. We've got to put these old mangy bearings back in, which are scratched up. The white metal part is damaged, but the bearing isn't that bad, I suppose. One thing to think about with these, unlike the 750, these are all lubricated from underneath. And these are transfer ports that go up to the overhead gear. So they're the only ones essentially that we need to worry about in terms of holes, if you know what I mean. So I'm just going to bang these back in, and then I'll lie the crank in. It's a good safe place to put it. Before we do that, we'll put that thing in there too, which will be one of these guys. These don't use a tensioner on the primary. They use a guide, if you like. These, of course, I intend to put Loctite in these. And I believe these are in pretty good nick, but they're, where's it going? There. But they're longer in one area. So they're shorter there, longer there. That's only going to go one way. We can't put it that way, so it has to go that way. And of course we'll do the same thing with the lower case as well. With the longer part of the, well, with the protrusion facing toward the rear, because that's where most of your chain flapping around is going to happen. So I'm going to wash these, Loctite them, I'll stick these in, and I'll be back. So these ones, I've put the better of the two at the bottom. Hang on, I'll just tighten this up. I haven't done this too well. Yeah, so I've put the better of the two at the bottom, because that's subject to most wear. So I've reversed them, but they are identical, and you can see that there. So I think what we'll do now is we'll just lie that crankshaft in, and then we'll take a look at the tensioner. That's the bit that I'm sort of interested in. I've got our cranky. I'm just going to stick a bit of oil on these. I'm not using assembly lube because this is all coming out. I just don't want to scratch up the crank. There we go. Which actually makes me, it makes me ask the question, did I put it the right way? Alright then, so there's the crank sitting in there. So what I wanted to model was the way the tensioner operates. So, we've got these little dowels, they can go in. We've got to put them in when we start checking clearances and all this sort of business. These, of course, the bolts will Loctite these in, but we're not going to do it at the moment. I've just washed them out in thinner. So the idea of this is I want to see if it works and how it works. So I think we'll pop those in for now. If I can remember what the heck I did with my quarter drive socket. Sorry, ratchet. And then I want to release the tensioner and just fiddle and fart around with it. So I really get a feel for what's going on. That's not good. I'm not working well because I'm talking to you, and sometimes it's difficult to concentrate. Oh boy. And there's a plug on the other side that sort of fits in. So just give those a nip like that. Now, by rights, where's our spanner? If I loosen that off, that should provide some tension. That's how it works. So you can run it back there, and that will overcome the spring. I can see that being problematic in terms of that thread. It's only a 6mm, so we're going to have to be really careful with that. but that's how that works. So we'll have to find another one. You can see in here, I hope you can see, I might just take the camera off the thing and I'll show you what I mean. In here, in that area there with my thumbs pointing, you can see the close proximity of where the timing chain is going to run in relation to the what do you call it, the body of this tension, and that's why they chew out so badly. You can get them overseas, sent out. So we'll just suck it and see, I suppose. Also, there's a plug that sort of goes in here. It's an 8mm thread, just to stop oil and all that sort of business leaking out, so that can just sort of sit there until we're ready to replace these bits. So I think that'll be alright for now. So I guess the next thing is this little starter idler. It has... Shit, which way does it go? Does it go that way? Yeah. Does it go that way or the other way? I can't remember. That's tricky. Which way does it go? It doesn't go that way. It goes this way. Oddly enough, there are no... there's no... What do you call it? Wave washer there. No shim. There is a bolt here which has a little extension on it and a lock which locks the shaft in place. I'm just going to pop a little bit of this goopy red crap in there, and that will therefore keep it nicely lubricated in the initial stages until we get oil running around our system. So which way did it go? Went that way? No, it didn't. It went the other way, didn't it? I pulled this apart a long time ago, an awfully long time ago, so remembering stuff is not coming naturally because I've done a lot of jobs. Yeah, no, does that go there? There it goes. I've done a lot of jobs, you know, since, if you know what I mean. So we'll push him in like that, and I can see that channel in there. That's my rag. And we can just stick this guy in, tighten him up. I'm doing 8 foot-pound on the 6mm bolts. And then we just lock him up with these tabs, which is kind of cool. That's not him properly. That is. Okay. Lock him down. Like that. And give him some love in terms of a big squeeze. Probably should have put some sort of Loctite on there, maybe. I don't know. Oy, come back, you dirty thing. Right, good. We're in. We're good. Unless we did it wrong and I have to bend these again, in which case I will put Loctite on. Right, so what are we up to now? Throwing bags in the bin. Shift drum. Now the thing I don't like about this, there's a couple of things. It has a bearing there, which is cool. And we've got a little spigot that goes in the case, so that's cool. We can put that in. Give him a tap. And it sits on a ledge. There's a ledge cut into that rebate for the bearing, so that's cool. That's all good. There's a sur that holds it in and an arm on it which holds the shift fork rod in as well. What I don't like about this is I can't set up the gear shift mechanism and click it up and down through the gears before the cases are put together. So we've got to try and find neutral and dick around with it a bit to figure out where everything is, if you know what I mean. Because I don't want to commit to putting that on, which I can't do anyway because I haven't got the bearings. Do you know what I mean? It's just a pain in the neck. So we got this guy. That bolt goes with that. That sits there as well. And I kind of tape these up. I didn't really need to, but that way I can just bang straight in. You know what I mean? Don't have to even think about it. So I guess undo our sticky tape, if we can find the end of it. Normally I fold the end of it so I can just find it and just unravel it, but because I was a dick when I did this, I didn't think of that. Okie dokie. This is fun. Alright, let's just stick these in. We'll lube up these little tracks as well. Yeah, come on, you can have some, and you can have some, and even you, if you're lucky. There you go. Look at the mess we're making. Goes in that way. So I am going to pop that in there. then I'm going to pop this one in here. Then, guess what? You got it. I'm going to put that one in there. And I think that's right, and I could be wrong. And then that will sit there. Right, so does that look right to you? Because I've not a clue, because it's been about 14 years since I did this. Maybe it is right, and maybe it's not. I have a hunch I got that right. Oh, I have. That goes like that. You stupid idiot. Right, that looks a little bit better, doesn't it? Says he. Alright then. I think that's right. I really don't know. But anyway, we're going to go with it for now. So to stop our little 350 gear sets going all over the shop, we use little pins like that. They only protrude by about 1 mil. One there and obviously one here. Yes. That is for a seal, which is like this thing. I don't know if the gasket kit's going to have one or not. And those things are located there as well. So we can put it there for now, but it doesn't matter that much. These are the same size. These little sort of semi-round half moon things, whatever you want to call them. And we just pop them in. 750's 4 of these things. 350's only got the 2. And they will sit there and they'll locate one bearing while that locates the other. Gear sets. Now the bearings in the gearbox in this thing were absolutely lovely, so we haven't changed them. There's no point. I'm not going to put my hands up for what I don't need to do. Main and counter shaft as well. This goes off to your crutch. It goes on this one. So these use a roller bearing, a needle roller. That thing there is what locates on that little pin, if you know what I mean. So we've got that one. And they're beautiful. The gearbox in this thing was in lovely condition. And we've got the big one. And sometimes with these sorts of things you have to be very, very careful that you don't let the thing fall apart, because it will fall apart. We're replacing this seal, and you can see it's got a pin in it, a key in it, for the output, which is down here. This bloke is going to see it in here like this. Now, where is that little cutout there? Little pin goes in there. That goes in there. I probably should have left the seal out. Is that sitting where it's supposed to sit? Yes, I believe it is. Cool. Alright. And that should start moving stuff around like that, which it does, which is kind of good. Alright, so we've got to get the top one out. This one is in this way, and again we've got the little hole there, and that goes in there and meshes. And we're storing it in because you are in the way. The camera's in the way. Just a moment. And that will go in somewhere in there. I can't feel it. Just a moment, please. So let's just get it in the ballpark, and there she is. Beautiful. One thing I did when I pulled this apart was I taped everything back in the order it came off, if you know what I mean. So there's a ring there which stops, which allows this detent to sort of run on roll pins on the end of that shaft, but that's how it came off, like that. So I know where the washers are, what they do, and all this sort of business. So I'm tipping that must go around there like that. So this spring would need to sit sort of perched in there, if you know what I mean. So then that would hold it against the casing, if you know what I mean. And then of course we just put that in. So that will have to run around the outside, so it's got a bit of tension on it. It might be easier putting it in like that, so it's on the arm first, and then just getting that started and squeezing it in. So it goes over that post essentially. Let me just get him sorted in a bit further. There's a fair whack of thread on here too, so you've got a bit of play, so to speak. Just got to get him past there. And then the casing will hold it, if that makes any sense. Whoops. Might need to use a screwdriver. Just a moment. So this isn't really so much a, this is how you do it. It's more, I've got to find my way around this to do it, if that makes any sense. Tighten him down, and that will push it over that area there. Like that. There we go. We're in. And I can't even find my ratchets. I'm using this stupid thing here. But that will also mean that we can check the gears better, because that is now perched in there against the shift drum, if you know what I mean, and it's sitting where it's supposed to sit against those roll pins, so that's good. So I guess we just tighten that up. And that one. So then once we get that in, we can sort of ratchet up through the gears. Yeah, that's better. So we can check our gears better like that. And that'll give us a sure way that's more reliable. So why don't we have a go at that then? So now we can do a gearbox run. If it works out that I put the case together and it doesn't work properly, I know it's external where the mechanism is. But I've got all the detent in for the shift. That's as far down as we can go, and that's first gear. If I bring it up one, we've got neutral, second, third, fourth, and that should be fifth, and then there shouldn't be any more. CB400s are better because they've got 6 gears, so yeah, that's good. Fifth, let's go down again, fourth, third, second, neutral, and first. That's as far as it goes, so that works brilliantly. I'm really happy with that. So that can all stay. All we need to do when we get our parts is just take the crankhead again, which is like 1 minute, and we'll have to clearance everything. And once that's on, new seal, bang the bottom case on, and we're out of there. So it's really, really good. I'm glad with this. I'm not nervous with gearboxes, but I just want to know they're all working properly, particularly with this, because, yeah, as I said before, we can't actually test it with the full mechanism with the cases split, which we could with the 750. This one we have to make sure it's kosher, and then sort of put the external stuff on once the cases are together. I guess the other thing I didn't do, which I could, is this detent here. That will fit in against there, like that. There's a little ledge cast into it, and of course this part here, this hook goes over there. So that'll fit sort of like that, facing down, and screw in thus. And then we can just pop that down, that lever, that part of the spring there. I'm not sure if you can see it where you are, but that will have to go down and against there, if that makes any sense. So I guess the imperative nature of it, I've got that spring caught. Hang on a sec, there we go. And I can get that in a bit further, so I can't escape. And then just pop that down. It's going to be easier doing that now than it is later, if that makes any sense at all. Like that. I wonder if I can get it from here. I'm sort of reaching around the camera. Hang on a minute. No, I can't. I've got to get above it, I think, and push him in. But yeah, you see what I mean. I might just get another screwdriver just a moment. Pop a bit of Loctite on there first. That goes inside, and there's the thing on the hub that binds up with, or meets up with. Is that all in? Yes, I think it is. I'll just tighten that up. And that should eventually run on the outside of that drum. Yes, it does. And there's a hollow for it in there. Just a minute. Let me just try that out. Yeah, there it is. Cool. Back to neutral. Doing a tire rotation on the old Starly. This will check the integrity of the compressor as we go through a few cycles. Look at the brakes. Yes, that was a quick look. That looks rather good. So then we can fix up the 350 a bit more, do the bottom cases, and I've ordered the seal kit for it. So it's imminent, it's just time. Sweet. Okay, the uppercase in our little 354. Very, very compact, tidy little unit. Few things. Few great things and a few things I'm not that wrapped with. I think they need a tensioner for the primary. Like the 750's got a sort of a sprung-loaded rubber wheel. And of course we've criticised the tensioner on the timing side, but other than that, I think it's a better design in a lot of ways. Oil pump goes here. And there's minimum interruption. We've got the intake there. It's a wet sump. I like a wet sump over a dry anyway. So your inlet for the oil pump's there, your outlet's there. That goes just along straight into the oil filter. There's just a blank there, a plug that goes there, but it's into the oil filter. From the oil filter, we're coming straight out and into the mains. And of course, the seals as well. And from there, the two outer ones go into the overhead gear. As far as these bearings are concerned, you've got these two feeds here, straight off that there. So really, really simple, super duper little lubrication system. On the other side, we've got all your gear shifting apparatus that sort of comes through here, which is less than desirable, just for the fact that, you know, through show, it's nice having it all in one location. Through here, I assume. Hang on a sec. Yeah, that's the Kickstarter mechanism. And it looks, I remember when I took this out, it sort of all came out together. With the, how does that go? With the side case. So there's your little ratchet. That goes in there and obviously hooks onto that top bit in there, if you can see that. So it looks as though, and then that would wrap around, I'm assuming, and go on that ledge. Right, well, everything in the uppercase has been dead obvious as far as I'm concerned. I didn't come across anything that I thought was confusing or anything like that. The lowercase isn't the same though. So far, we're fitted, let me turn this around so you can see it, because I don't know what the camera can see, because I can't see behind it. So far I've fitted the primary chain guide, and again I've fitted the better of the two at the bottom. And this bearing here, whoops, for the auxiliary shaft or primary shaft, I don't know what you want to call it, it's what the primary drives on. And there's also a rebate here where I've fitted the inner ring. Now I do find this confusing, or I had found this confusing, and I've sort of had to look at it a bit to work out which way, hang on, the best way to approach this, because there are spaces and all sorts of stuff, but the main thing to be aware of is that this guy here, which is a one-way clutch, it's the primary drive, that's what the primary chain runs on, is installed with the primary chain wrapped around it on the uppercase before you stick the lower one on. Now, I'm just going to put it under there for now. This is not the right way to do it, but I'm just sort of doing this half for my benefit, really, because I don't want to forget, and I want a video representation of how it all fits. Okay, so that just sort of sits in there now. This shaft has got a bearing on it, it's got a spacer on it. There are two spacers, there's a thin one and a thicker one. There's a cup washer which has, which is tightened, and it says outside there, so it's tightened with the convex side on the outside, and then therefore it spreads load a bit more efficiently. So this all has to go in before the, what do you call it? Oil pump. And it fits in through this bearing we've installed. Now, obviously, this is just a dummy run. So we run it through there, and then we've got this spacer here. We've got a bird yelling out there. Please be quiet, bird. We've got this spacer here. Now that runs with the fat side, or at least the larger side, on the inside where the primary is, or where the clutch is. Through there like that. And I can poke that through, and then it's suspended. That only goes one way. And for the rest, I might turn the camera around the other way so you can see what I'm talking about. Just a moment. Right, we're looking at it this way. That is the little gear there where our oil pump runs off. And if we turn this around the other way, whoa, hang on a second. There we go, damaging anything. Can you see that? Yes, you can. Right, so that's the spacer there with the large side facing on the inside where the clutch is. The bearing, there's that circlips in there installed already, so you would pop the bearing on and then put the outer space, the outer circlip there, and the circlip's a great big stealthy looking guy like that. Then we have a thinner spacer, we pop that on. The gear goes on, and we can see here where the gear's been running against that spacer. There's a ring on it there, so we know the way it came off. So you could even turn it around, I guess. Pop the gear on, then you've got this cup washer. Again, it says outside to make sure that it's the concave side out, convex side out I should say, and then we tighten him up. Now after this has been tightened, this all happens once we put the cases back together, not before like this, but I wanted to do a dummy run. Now that is shunting like that. That is purely because we haven't got that circlip. That's the bearing moving around in that slot. Of course, once that circlip's in, that will be rigid. So I wanted to go through that because it sort of threw me a bit, just to make sure we get it all in the right order. So essentially there's nothing more I can do until I start getting bits. I'm just going to pop that down over those dowels just to keep the snot out of it. Where's that bolt I had? Always happens to me. I'll just pin it with a bolt. Oh well, there's not much more we can do. It's just waiting on parts, I guess, and ordering them as well. It's quite expensive to do that with all the lower bearings. They're around $450 for a set, and that's assuming I get all the measurements right and get them right first time, if you know what I mean, because once you unwrap those bearings, you're done, and they all come in halves, if you know what I mean. So it's a pain having to do this, but I just don't want to stick those old ones back in. But look, at the end of the day, it is what it is. Once I get the bearings and the other bits and pieces I've been talking about, that can all be buttoned up. I can stick the clutch on, I can put the covers on, I can do an awful lot to it that I can't do at the moment, obviously. And then we're just down to doing the top end, and even that's not going to be a cheap thing because I've got to rebore the cylinders and what's the other thing? Do something with the cylinder head too, because there's a problem with one of the valves. Parts wise, we don't have much. We only have what the wonderful Phil Rule bought us last year, which is a full gasket kit, pistons and rings, which new pins and clips and all sorts of stuff. These are 1mm over because of the amount of what do you call it, wear that the cylinders had. I couldn't get the end gap to be anything like what I wanted it to be, so we've got these lovely new slugs. People have asked me where these come from. This is Cruising Image. I use these pistons in the 750, bigger ones than that though. Tried to find on several forums anyone that had anything negative to say about them, because they are quite a low price job, and no one said anything about them. No one said anything negative. All I could read and all I could find about them was positive stuff. So Phil got these for me. These are 1mm oversized, so we have to have the cylinders bored, and then we can sort of action a few more jobs on the bike. So they can go, I need to wrap them up. So we've got a seal kit on the way, and that's all I've ordered, so I'll wait until next week when I'm a bit more financial, and then I can start ordering bearings and all this sort of stuff. These gasket kits include pretty much everything, but a lot of the time you'll find some of the O-rings aren't there, so you might have these ones for the intake manifolds, you might have little ones for between the cylinder head and the cylinder block, if you know what I mean. There's one there for the timing cover I can see, there's valve stem seals. Sometimes a good deal of them are missing and you have to sort of improvise. I use Viton seals, which are very good with oil and heat. So on the off chance you do get some of these, you've got to sort of sift through them and see where they will fit before you fit them up. So that's not an issue. You can get the Viton ones at bearing wholesalers in Bayswater. They run at about $2 each or something like that. So it's not likely, I doubt the ones for the oil pump will be in here, but we'll see when we pull it all apart anyway. But anyhow, thanks very much for watching. Take good care of yourselves, enjoy your bikes, and I'll see you soon.